Hi, my name is Michael Rehm, and I am a DUI attorney practicing in Yolo County, California. This video today is going to ideally provide you with some useful information about what to expect in court in Yolo County in Department 9, which is where you're going to be. If you were just released from jail, you should have received a white piece of paper. It's called your notice to appear, and it'll show you have a court date generally about 30 to 45 days out, and it's going to be at 8:30 in the morning in Department 9. Now, that court date is what's called the arraignment. Now, before you even get to that court date, the district attorney has already reviewed your police report, and they're going to write down what they call an initial offer of the case for when you show up. And so when you show up that day, you're going to get read an offer, but other than that, no negotiation is going to take place. The district attorney in the courtroom doesn't have your file. They just have the offer sheet, as they call it. And if you want to negotiate the case, or you want your attorney to negotiate the case, or you want a public defender or whatnot, the matter is going to be continued for 2 to 4 weeks on average for what they call a pretrial conference. And that's going to be right back in Department 9, and that's going to be at 10:30 in the morning. And that is the date that really any plan of attack or negotiations really take place, assuming you don't have an attorney. And what I generally prefer doing is dealing with the district attorney via telephone between those two court dates. But regardless, the 10:30 pretrial conference date is where the real negotiations take place. And let me tell you a little bit of what you can expect. I know there's a big misconception out there. Let's start with the first offense DUI. There's a misconception out there, if you research it and you read through certain websites, and darn near every website, it says minimum is 48 hours jail. Now, what that means is you have the right to do sheriff's work project in lieu of jail. I have never had a client go to jail on a first offense DUI in Yolo County or really any other county. You're always given the option to sign up for sheriff's work project in lieu of jail for those 2 days. So if you have any anxiety about the fact you could be going to jail for 48 hours, you shouldn't. You're going to be given the opportunity to do sheriff's work project. Now, the sheriffs can turn you down from sheriff's work project. That is also extremely rare. I've never had a client get turned down on a first offense DUI for sheriff's work project, but basically what they're looking for is if you're healthy, because you're going to be doing potentially not strenuous but some physical labor out in the sun or whatnot. They want to just make sure you're physically fit, you can handle that kind of work. Now, if you can't, there's alternatives. You don't have to necessarily do work project. You can just do what they call general community service, or you can do what they call medical detention, where you just be wearing an ankle monitoring at home for those 2 days. So there's plenty of options, and that is whether or not you're looking at 2 days or 5 days or 10 days or 15 days. It doesn't matter. On a first offense DUI, it's going to be work project or one of the other alternative sentences that I just discussed in lieu of jail. Now, a standard first offense DUI, assuming no high blood alcohol or no obviously injury or anything like that, that wouldn't upgrade it to a felony. But a standard misdemeanor DUI, not high blood alcohol, you're looking at around 2 days of sheriff's work project. No more, no less. If you do not have a high blood alcohol level, you're also looking at what they call a 3-month DUI school. Now, high blood alcohol starts around a 0.15. If you have anything higher than a 0.15, then the penalties can increase. It can go up to 6 days of sheriff's work project. It can go up to a 9-month DUI program, or a 6-month DUI program, depending on the circumstances of the case. And keep in mind, what the blood alcohol level is obviously not set in stone. There's even if the blood says a certain result, that doesn't necessarily mean that is what it is. It just depends on how reliable that evidence is, and so forth. But that's basically what you're looking at with those two. You're looking at the work project. You're looking at a DUI school. And if you don't have high blood alcohol, it's 3-month school, and it'll be once a week for 3 months. Excuse me. You're looking at a fine, and here's where Yolo County is really more extreme than any other county I've practiced in. It's certainly more than the surrounding counties of Placer or Sacramento. fines a little over $3,000 in Yolo County on a first offense DUI. You can make payments on that of $100, $125 a month, but by far it is higher than any county I have dealt with, and that includes Southern California and the Bay Area and Sacramento, El Dorado, and Placer, and Colusa, and so forth. You are also looking at what they call 3 years of informal probation. Now, informal probation, if you have no experience with the criminal justice system, and most people facing first offense DUIs do not, informal probation is exactly as it sounds. It's informal. You don't have a probation officer. You don't have to check in. It doesn't have, you don't get drug tested. It doesn't have all those requirements, but it does have 4 terms, as they state, of probation you're going to have to abide by. The first one is just a catch-all provision that's called obey all laws. Now, if you have a parking ticket or a speeding ticket, some sort of infraction, I guess in theory they could violate your probation based on that, but I've never seen it occur. It generally would have to be another misdemeanor case committed in Yolo County, or that Yolo County becomes aware of if outside of Yolo County, or something to that extent. Basically, you have to get another misdemeanor or higher case to get your probation violated under the obey all laws provision. The next 3 are: you cannot refuse a chemical test for the next 3 years from there on out. You're going to be on zero tolerance, meaning you can't have any alcohol in your system for the next 3 years when you're driving. You also, here's the more tricky one. In order to have a valid license for the next 3 years, you're going to have to maintain valid insurance, and specifically what they call SR22 insurance, which is high-risk insurance. Now, they're not saying you have to get SR22 insurance. They're just saying if you don't have it for the next 3 years, your license is automatically going to be suspended. In certain states, well, in California as well, it's illegal not to have auto insurance. But California doesn't normally suspend people's license when they don't have insurance, as they do in other states. In other states, they call it a lapse in coverage suspension. You don't have insurance, your license gets suspended. California doesn't do that, but if you're convicted of a DUI, they will do it for you for the next 3 years. Now, there's obviously certain reductions that are possible. There's what's called a wet reckless. A wet reckless is, in Yolo County specifically, is a big difference. It goes down to, saves you about $2,000 in fines. It's only 1 year of informal probation as opposed to 3 years. There's no work project or anything to that extent. But the length of the DUI school would more than likely be the same unless you were successful at the DMV hearing, which is certainly possible. But that's a whole other subject that would take a whole other video. So basically, Yolo County, first offense DUI, you're looking at 4 things. You're looking at the 3 years informal probation. You're looking at about a $3,000 fine. You're looking at the 2 days of sheriff's work project, and you're looking at the 3-month first offender program DUI school once a week. Sometimes they put a condition in there depending on the blood alcohol level, especially if it's high blood alcohol level, no drinking at all for a certain period of time. Sometimes they modify that to no drinking in excess. They will modify that term of probation. But overall, Yolo County, in my experience, I can tell you the judge in Department 9 is extremely fair and reasonable, and she'll actually listen to the facts of the case before making a decision. The district attorney's office is extremely professional as far as getting you the evidence you need. In a lot of counties, as a defense attorney, when you're requesting certain evidence like the patrol car video or calibration records of the breathalyzer machine or any video of the blood draw, anything to that extent, other counties will drag their feet, or they'll just not give it unless you set it for a jury trial and go that route. But Yolo County will give it to you, and they'll give it to you in an efficient manner, and they're very professional in that regard. So it's not the worst place in the world to get in trouble, for what it's worth. Now, on a second offense DUI, you're still more than likely just a straight second offense DUI if you're not on probation, especially if you're not on probation in Yolo County. It was outside of the prior. Generally on a first offense DUI, you get 3 years probation no matter what the county. So if the second offense DUI is outside of the 3 years, or outside of 1 year, if it's a wet reckless, then you don't have to worry about your probation being violated. But what they're going to be asking for is generally about 10 to 15 days, and it would also be the work project or ankle monitoring or potentially community service if there was some health issue that you couldn't do on the ankle monitoring or something to that extent. So even on a second DUI, for the most part, if there's no high blood alcohol, or even if there is, if it's not outrageous and you're not on probation, you're still really not looking at jail. So for those of you who have a second offense DUI in Yolo County, you can breathe a sigh of relief on that. The DUI school is going to be much more significant in length. It's going to be what they call the SB 38 program. That's an 18-month school. The first 12 months is once a week. The next 6 months is once a month. Fines are around the same, a little over $3,000, and the probation goes up to 4 years. But other than that, the terms stay the same. You're just getting into dangerous territory, because the next one's a third, and that comes with generally some jail time, and it comes with a much longer program potentially, and then the next one after that is a fourth, and the fourth is a felony, and you're looking at prison. So that basically covers it. I mean, there's a lot more that can be discussed as far as how to defend a case in Yolo County or what they're looking for or whatnot. You can call me anytime, 916-233-7346 for a free consultation. But the gist is, especially those of you who are facing second offense DUIs, you're still really not looking at jail. It's still just going to be work project or ankle monitoring. But you know, any more and you're in trouble. Or if you're on probation originally, you're potentially in trouble as well. So good luck. If you have any questions, give me a call.